Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 24 based on novel. So let's start. In the sky filled by boundless Yuan power, the faces of Shudong and the other five turned extremely ugly as they gazed at little Martin in the distance, while rage erupted from their eyes. Their reputation within the Eastern Xian region was considered pretty good. Over the years, there was no one that dared to look down on them. Isn't your boasting a little too much? Aren't you afraid of choking to death on these words? Shudong said with a gloomy face. Choke Grandpa Martin to death? You trash sure think too highly of yourselves. Little Martin mockingly replied with a smile while shaking his head. Heh? Good, I'm really interested to find out just what kind of abilities you have to take on all six of us by yourself. Shudong's expression was frosty as he chuckled. He could feel how tyrannical little Martin was, therefore he did not try to show off and do something like a one-on-one fight. Since little Martin had said such boastful and crazy words, Shudong would be happy to help fulfill his wish. As his words rang out, Shudong cast a chilling gaze at the five people beside him, before faintly nodding his head. In the next instant, boundless Yuan power simultaneously swept out, and six extremely violent Yuan power torrents gushed out, crafty and vicious as they rumbled towards little Martin in the distance. Floating in the sky, little Martin looked at the attacks of the six people as the lips on his handsome face faintly curled. With a wave of his sleeve, purplish-black flames spread outwards, transforming into a fiery barrier around his entire body. Bang bang! The Yuan power torrents were swift and violent as they arrived, before finally impacting against the fiery barrier. However, only a few muffled sounds rang out, before they dissipated like fleeting snow that had met a raging inferno. Is that all? Little Martin grinned as he looked towards the grim Shudong and the other five and asked. Seeing that their combined attacks were unexpectedly unable to shake little Martin at all, the expressions of Shudong and the others could not help but change somewhat, as they felt disbelief in their hearts. When the six of them joined forces, even a perfect profound life stage expert would not dissolve their attacks so easily. Who exactly was this handsome youth in front of them, who was actually so strong? So strong, upon seeing this spectacle, graveness filled Chi Lei's eyes as he said in a deep voice. Even some profound life stage experts of Yuan Gate would perhaps fall short of the power that little Martin had displayed. Beside him, Chenjun faintly nodded his head. He knew some fuzzy details about little Martin's identity, therefore, when the latter displayed that astonishing combat ability, it did not seem exceptionally astonishing. If this is all you have, get ready to scram. In the sky, little Martin seemed rather unsatisfied with the combined might of Shudong and the other five. Purplish-black flames danced on his slender hand. Soon after, he shot a look at the six and said with an indifferent tone. Don't be an intolerable bully. Shudong and the other five were clearly angered by the heedless attitude of little Martin. They were currently being watched by countless gazes in this unique devil region. If it spread that even the six of them were unable to shake a person when they joined forces, where could they possibly show their old faces in future? Heaven covering Yuan array. A deep voice containing rage emerged from Shudong's mouth. Instantly, the other five started a series of profound footwork. Surging Yuan power converged to form a light pillar, which suddenly shot out and transformed into a light array, enveloping the five within. Boom! Boundless Yuan power fluctuations radiated crazily from within the light array. Being an array created by the combined strength of six advanced profound life stage experts, its might was obviously rather terrifying. The fluctuations that radiated from it caused the expressions of several people in the city to change. Within the enveloping light array, boundless Yuan power light pillars whizzed out. However, they did not disperse. Instead, they converged towards Shudong's location at an astonishing speed. As this Yuan power gathered, Shudong's aura rapidly multiplied in power. Contrary to him, the auras of the other five rapidly weakened. From the looks of it, the other five individuals had evidently delivered their Yuan power to Shudong for a short duration. That's the Yuan Gate's heaven-covering Yuan array. It can temporarily graft the Yuan power of others to one's body. Although the one that accepts the Yuan power would suffer injuries, his strength would reach an astonishing level for a short period of time. As he watched this spectacle, Chi Lei's eyes turned a little more grave while he explained. The merging of 6 people's Yuan power. This requires an extremely high level of understanding between them. These few old fellows do indeed have some ability, Chen Zhen added while nodding his head. However, that friend of Lindong's is also not someone who is easy to deal with. It would not be easy for these old fellows to defeat him even having used their final trump card. Yuan power that blotted the skies rippled around Shadong like an ocean. Feeling the extreme surge of power within his body, a dark and cold expression appeared on his aged face. His gaze locked onto little Martin in the distance. With a cold laugh, his hand seal suddenly changed as a cold roar resounded. Heaven-subduing seal. Bang! Boundless Yuan power surged out like a flood at this instant, rapidly transforming into a gigantic light seal several hundreds of feet large in the sky. Above the light seal, ripples started to scatter outwards, and even the land seemed to tremble slightly at this moment. Swoosh! The light seal was formed, and without the slightest trace of stopping, it whizzed out with a bright and resplendent light tail akin to a comet, and rumbled towards little Martin under the innumerable shocked gazes below. Now this is something slightly worth seeing, however, that's all there is to it. Little Martin watched the gigantic seal shooting towards him. With a laugh, he slowly started to clench those slender hands, causing purplish-black flames to sweep out. Under the stunned gazes of everyone, it transformed into a pair of gigantic purplish-black flaming bat wings that were nearly 1,000 feet wide. The flaming bat wings faintly flapped, causing gales to erupt across the sky and land, while space immediately started to warp and distort. Swish! After the flaming bat wings had formed, it gave a sudden flap. In that instant, it seemingly ripped apart space, and violently slapped against the gigantic light seal under the attention of numerous watching gazes. Boom! An enormous sound mixed with extremely wild and violent fluctuations crazily dispersed in the skies. A few who were standing close to the fight were immediately swept and thrown away, causing them to appear extremely miserable. Crack! As the ripples spread outwards, everyone could see that cracks had suddenly appeared on the surface of the gigantic light seal. With a final crack, the light seal formed by the full powers of 6 advanced profound life advanced stage experts, shattered apart with a loud bang. Ugh! As the light seal shattered, muffled groans rang out of the throats of Shadong and the other 5, as paleness surfaced on their faces. At this moment, terror finally flashed within their eyes. The people of Yuan Gate are unable to withstand even a single blow. The little Martin gazed indifferently at Shadong and the rest, whose expressions had changed drastically. A cold glint flashed within his eyes, and a faint tremor shook his body. The incomparably gigantic flaming bat wings shattered space again, and appeared above them in a flash, before ruthlessly slapping downwards. Bang bang! Frightening purplish-black flames carried berserk power and smashed against the bodies of Shadong and the other 5, who were unable to evade, at lightning speed. Low and deep muffled sounds rang out, as the 6 shot down miserably, while continuously spurting blood on the way down. Their auras rapidly weakened, indicating that they had obviously suffered pretty serious injuries. Complete defeat. Upon seeing this, a series of gasps sounded out in the city. 6 advanced profound life stage experts had joined hands, however, they unexpectedly still suffered complete defeat at the hands of this handsome man. Don't be too pleased with yourself, you've offended our Yuan Gate. In this eastern Xian region, there will definitely be no safe place for you. Although the 6 of us are not your opponents, our Yuan Gate has as many experts as the clouds in the skies. You'll regret it sooner or later. Shadong wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, before shouting in a stern voice. Too noisy. Little Martin's gaze turned a little frosty, as killing intent flashed within his eyes. Like a sharp flaming wing blade, the flaming bat wings shattered space again. They contained extremely swift and fierce gales, as they slashed at the 6. From the looks of it, he was actually planning to kill all of them. You? Upon discovering the sudden swift and fierce attack unleashed by little Martin and the murderous aura within, the faces of Shadong and the other 5 were overwhelmed with horror. They had obviously never imagined that little Martin would actually dare to unleash a killing blow on them. Retreat quickly. A panicked voice emerged from Shadong's mouth. However, their faces turned deathly pale as they discovered that the space surrounding them had been locked at this moment. They could only raise their heads and look with wide eyes at the flaming bat wings descending upon them at lightning speed. Lindong watched the spectacle playing before him. However, in the next instant, his pupils suddenly contracted. He had noticed that the space in front of Shadong and the other 5 had suddenly started distorting. In the next instant, a slender and fair hand reached out from within it. With a flick, an invisible fluctuation scattered outwards, and directly forced back little Martin's flaming bat wings. Who? As the bat wings were forced back, a grave look finally appeared on little Martin's handsome face. His eyes were tightly fixed on the distorted space before Shadong and the 5, as he shouted in a deep voice. Ha ha, when did my Eastern Xian region become a territory of the celestial demon Martins? Don't you think that you are looking down too greatly on my Yuan Gate? An indifferent laugh slowly rang out from the distorted space. In the next moment, everyone saw a figure slowly step out from within. The instant he appeared, the sky and earth seemed to have suddenly darkened. An invisible fluctuation radiated out, causing people to feel an impulse to kneel down. That is. Within the pavilion, Ling Qingshu gazed at the figure that had walked out from empty space. Even with her temperament, she could not help but gasp. One of the 3 great sect masters of Yuan Gate. Ren Yuenzi. Beside her, the jade-like hands of the beautiful woman were clenched tight, while she grimly muttered with some difficulty. In the sky, a figure slowly strolled out from the distorted space, before standing in the air. There were no Yuan power fluctuations radiating from his body. However, a faint pressure spread outwards, making it seem as if even the air would be able to solidify. The figure wore a purple and gold robe, and had a full head of silver hair. His eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life, however, his skin was as fair as a baby, a sight that felt somewhat weird. The entire city seemed to have turned deathly silent at this instant. Regardless of where one was from, all of their faces were stretched taut at this moment. Their gazes were filled with graveness and horror as they stared at the figure in the sky. Ren Yuenzi. The deathly silence persisted for quite some time, before a voice that was repressing his shock quietly rang out. No one had thought that he, an expert that was practically at the apex in the Eastern Xian region, would actually appear here. The 3 great sect masters of Yuan Gate. Within this Eastern Xian region, no, even within this land, they were considered to be top-class experts. Usually, they spent the majority of their time in closed-door training, and it was extremely hard to even catch a glimpse of them. Most of the people in Unique Devil region had only heard of their prestigious name, however, they had never truly seen them in person. In the sky, the expressions of Chi Lei and the other 3 turned exceptionally ugly. They looked at each other, and saw the unrest in each other's eyes. In the face of an expert at the level of Ren Yuenzi, even they felt rather powerless. The Dao sect disciples currently felt somewhat panicky. To them, an existence like Ren Yuenzi was akin to a legend. After seeing him with their own eyes, it was unavoidable for them to feel some terror and dread. Hearing the commotion from behind, Ying Xiaoxiao's complexion was also slightly ugly as she tightly clenched her jade-like hands, while intense unease bubbled forth from within her heart. This Ren Yuenzi had a venerable status and would absolutely not show himself easily. However, since he had actually shown himself, it meant that some matters might no longer be easily settled. Big sis. Ying Xiaoxiao tilted her head and looked at Ying Huanhuan standing beside her. At this time, the latter had unconcealable worry on her face. It was obvious that she similarly felt uneasy. It's all right, Ying Xiaoxiao gently shook her head. She could only comfort her like this. To have discovered little Martin's identity with a single glance, Lindong's fists had also clenched tightly the moment Ren Yuenzi appeared. Soon after, he took a deep breath, as a grim look appeared in his eyes. Beside him, Little Flame firmly stared at the figure in the distance. The fine hairs all over his body had already stood up like needles. From that figure, he could sense an indescribable feeling of danger. Ren Yuenzi, never would I have thought that even an old devil like you would come here, the smile on little Martin's handsome face disappeared completely at this moment. He stared at the silver-haired figure dressed in a purple and gold robe, and slowly spoke. "Sect Master, we're incompetent and could not complete the task." Shudong and the other 5 appeared behind Ren Yuenzi upon seeing him, and hurriedly kneeled down. They appeared rather terrified as they spoke. "Ha ha, to have met with a celestial demon Martin, you are indeed not its match." Ren Yuenzi faintly laughed while gesturing with his hand. His vision locked onto little Martin as he said, "You should know about the grudge between the celestial demon Martin race and us Yuan Gate. Therefore, I'm very curious. Why do you still have the courage to kill the members of my Yuan Gate in the Eastern Xian region?" "I'll kill if I want, why should I need courage? You only dare to hole up in this Eastern Xian region. See if you can exhibit any or at all if you leave this place." Little Martin replied with a cold laugh. "Ha ha, the words you say are indeed true. Even I will not easily go to Demon City. However, this place is the Eastern Xian region after all." Ren Yuenzi gave a soft laugh as he stared at little Martin. An indifferent and cold glint that caused the temperature of the surroundings to plummet flashed within his eyes. "Since you've appeared in the Eastern Xian region, there's no need for you to leave." Little Martin's eyes were frosty. His body faintly moved, as purplish-black flames that blotted the sky spread outwards. "I can sense that your strength should not be limited to this, however, you should have yet to recover all of it. The current you isn't my opponent," Ren Yuenzi said with a smile. When Ren Yuenzi said these words, little Martin surprisingly did not refute. Similarly, he also understood it very well. Unless he regained his peak state, Ren Yuenzi was indeed an opponent he could not contend with. "You must be the one that killed all of my Yuan Gate's 500 over disciples, Lindong." Ren Yuenzi's line of sight suddenly turned towards Lindong in the distance, and said with a faint smile. Lindong's eyes hardened a little, as he looked straight at Ren Yuenzi. The latter's ordinary gaze was so sharp it seemed as though it could pierce through his soul. "You truly are a vicious little fellow," Ren Yuenzi smiled, however, his smile did not have a single trace of warmth. "Your killing intent is too heavy. You shall follow me back to Yuan Gate and thoroughly suppress that killing intent. After which, let Ying Xuanzi come to the Yuan Gate receive you back." Lindong's expression sunk faintly as he replied, "Oh? As the esteemed and honorable Yuan Gate sect master, you're actually treating the rules set down by the 8 great super sects as nothing? Rules? Ha ha, the thing about rules is that if you're strong enough, you can change them if you want." Ren Yuenzi was taken aback. Soon after, he shook his head while laughing. Looking towards Lindong, he said in a gentle voice, "Your so-called rules don't have any power in my eyes. Therefore, you should not try using such childish tactics to stop me. Follow me back to the Yuan Gate, then let Ying Xuanzi personally fetch you back." As his words appeared, Ren Yuenzi waved his sleeve, and the space surrounding Lindong suddenly started to warp and distort. An irresistible and frightening force started to emerge from the space. Bang! Majestic purplish-black flames spread across the sky, rumbling as it mercilessly smashed against the distorted space and shattered it. "Grandpa Martin does not agree with you touching him." Little Martin's handsome face was a little twisted, as he maliciously stared at Ren Yuenzi and said, "I've said it before, you're not my match." Ren Yuenzi released an indifferent chuckle. Extended his 5 fingers, 5 light pillars explosively shot out of them. The light pillars screamed out, before transforming into a prison, and trapping little Martin within. Faintly, extremely strange fluctuations radiated out in a barely discernible manner. They seemed to have the flavor of reincarnation, causing one to be unable to oppose them. Boom! Purplish-black flames that blotted the sky crazily unfurled, as wave after wave smashed against the light pillar prison. However, the latter did not budge at all. From the looks of it, it was as if it was akin to the most mysterious reincarnation in this world, unable to be shaken. Roar! Little Martin's face distorted as wave after wave of attacks erupted from him. At this very moment, his eyes were turning increasingly scarlet red. In the next instant, a sharp roar suddenly resounded out from within the monstrous purplish-black flames. Boom! A sharp roar rang out as the monstrous flames on little Martin's body erupted. His body rapidly expanded. In a short span of a dozen breaths, the purplish-black glow enveloped the entire area. A titanic 1,000 feet large strange beast appeared within the skies in an earth-shattering manner. The strange beast was entirely purplish-black in color, while its wings also spanned 1,000 feet. Flames seemed to be burning with its giant purplish-black pupils, a sight that was extremely shocking. Bang! A purplish-black glow that blotted the skies radiated out from its enormous body, while faint golden light seemed to shimmer on its gigantic purplish-black bat wings. Is this the celestial demon Martin? Within unique Devil City, innumerable gazes looked in shock at the colossal creature in the air. As one of the overlord-grade races of the demonic beast world, it was obviously extremely rarely seen in the eastern Xian region. However, their reputation was well known. Purplish gold demon wings, looks like you're not an ordinary celestial demon Martin, never mind, several powerful experts from my Yuan Gate have died at the hands of your celestial demon Martin race. Today, I'll return a bit of the debt for them. Ren Yuenzi looked at the celestial demon Martin's wings that covered the sky, as astonishment flashed within those gentle and cold eyes of his, before he spoke out in a gentle tone. Roar? After transforming into his original form as a celestial demon Martin, little Martin's strength had clearly risen to an extremely powerful level. His gigantic paw slammed into the light pillar prison, as purplish-black flames swept out, finally forcibly shattering the prison. Bang! With the prison shattered, the titanic celestial demon Martin's giant wings finally unfurled completely. Purplish-black flames crazily burned on its body. From afar, it looked akin to the descent of a demonic god. Rumble. Having transformed into his original form, little Martin faced the heavens and roared, while a brutal aura rose within those giant purplish-black eyes. With a sudden flap of his wings, purplish-black flames gathered and transformed into a flaming tornado that was thousands of feet large. Boom! The temperature crazily rose at this moment, as everyone stared in shock at the spectacle before them. A battle between opponents of this level was extremely rare even in the eastern Xian region. How many years has it been since I've crossed hands with a celestial demon Martin? I shall play with you today then. Ren Yuenzi gazed at the flaming tornado that engulfed the land. On that face that was as fair as a baby, a gentle smile slowly surfaced. Soon after, he spread his hands outwards. Everyone felt the Yuan power in this stretch of world seemed to rebel completely at this moment. A battle of truly epic proportions was about to erupt. A purplish-black flaming tornado seemingly connected heaven and earth as it crazily revolved. The surrounding space seemed to distort and warp to its breaking point, while the temperature of the area became extremely scorching at this moment. If this tornado were to land on unique Devil City, no one would doubt that the entire city would be instantly destroyed. Bang! Little Martin's giant 1,000 feet large bat wings gave a sudden flap, creating crazy gales. The flaming tornado that contained the power of destruction screamed as it headed towards the purple and gold figure in the distant sky. Crash! As the tornado swept over, black cracks appeared as the surrounding space seemed to split open, while fluctuations that caused one's scalp to turn numb started to radiate out. Hee. However, when faced with the flaming tornado that caused countless people to feel terrified, Ren Yuenzi merely gently chuckled. Soon after, he shook his head. With a light clench of his hand, the Yuan power in the area instantly converged together at an astonishing speed, before finally transforming into a several hundred feet large giant crystal finger in his hand. Terrifying energy fluctuations twined around the giant finger. These energy fluctuations were not purely composed of Yuan power, they also contained a concentrated life force, and under this life force, flowed the extremely astonishingly destructive death chi. These two entirely different kinds of frightening energies were perfectly fused at this instant. At their fusion, there were faint traces of reincarnation fluctuations that radiated out. Although these slivers of reincarnation flavor were extremely faint, they gave off the feeling of controlling the myriad of living beings across the world. Life and death fusion, touching on reincarnation, this Ren Yuenzi has already broken free of life and death, and has stepped into the samsara stage. Chi Lei and the other three's faces contained a faint shock as they gazed upon the giant crystal finger within Ren Yuenzi's hand, while their eyes filled with thick terror. Lindong's fists were tightly clenched at this moment, while heavy unease filled his heart. Things have already progressed to this stage, and had already completely broken away from his control, and even his expectations. Ren Yuenzi's strength was way too strong compared to the current him. Furthermore, although little Martin had transformed to his celestial demon Martin form, he had yet to recover his full strength. Boom! With a wave of his sleeve, the gigantic crystal finger howled out like a mountain emerging into the sky. Under countless shocked gazes, it violently smashed onto the purplish-black flaming tornado. Bang bang bang. At the instant of the collision, this entire stretch of the world seemed to tremble violently. The entire unique Devil City shook, tremoring crazily as if an earthquake had arrived. Even though the city was relatively far from the battle in the sky, a few tall buildings were instantly crushed into powder by the repercussions. This scene caused the onlookers' blood to run cold as they hastily landed from the sky. In the distant sky, purplish-black flames crazily swept out. As the giant crystal finger pressed down on it, the gigantic flaming tornado gradually fell apart, transforming into a rain of fire that fell down towards the earth. I've said it before, you are not my match. If you were at your peak, you might be able to put up a fight against me. However, not at your current state. After breaking little Martin's tyrannical attack with a finger, Ren Yuenzi gave a faint laugh. Placing his hands behind his back, his figure looked like an ant when compared with the incomparably large little Martin. However, the aura that radiated from him made him seem to be a giant that could carry the sky. His aura easily suppressed little Martin. You have merely stepped into the samsara stage. Do you truly believe that you are a reincarnation stage expert? Monstrous purplish-black flames engulfed little Martin's entire body. His roar was akin to thunder, rumbling as it resounded across the area. Boom! Following little Martin's roar, the purplish-black flames that filled the air suddenly gathered together, transforming into enormous flaming meteors, and shot explosively towards Ren Yuenzi from all directions. Ren Yuenzi raised his head, and looked indifferently at the flaming meteors hurtling across the horizon towards him. With a wave of his sleeve, the space in front of him instantly shattered. In a flash, a gigantic black spatial crack spanning thousands of feet appeared. Swoosh swoosh! Numerous flaming meteors smashed into the spatial crack before sounds of explosions rumbled and rang out from within it. Scorching hot waves of fire dispersed in the sky like a demon breathing flames. A clash at this level in the sky caused the countless onlookers to be dumbfounded. The ability of Ren Yuenzi to wave his hand and shatter space made their bodies shiver. Was this the strength of a top-class expert in the world? Life and death world. Ren Yuenzi stood in the air. With a wave of his palm, vast energies formed from the fusion of life and death power unfurled across the horizon. It transformed into a gigantic light barrier tens of thousands of feet wide, which totally engulfed little Martin's titanic body. Bang bang bang. Monstrous purplish-black energy smashed heavily against the black and white energy barrier. However, it could only cause loud sounds to ring out and was completely unable to break through the barrier. Evidently, Ren Yuenzi was in complete dominance in the battle between the two. Stay quiet in there for a while, Ren Yuenzi said with a faint smile. Soon after, he turned his head around, as his gentle gaze looked towards the far-off Lindong. One or two young monstrous talents would appear in the Dao sect every now and then. Ju Tong from back then was one of them, and now there's another one. Ha ha, however, you're even more vicious than Ju Tong. You actually killed the entire batch of elite disciples from my Yuan Gate. I truly don't know if you're overly courageous, or overly stupid. Lindong's eyes were somewhat grim. He shot a look at little Martin, who was trapped within that black and white light barrier, as his fists tightly clenched. Follow me back to Yuan Gate. Relax, I won't take your life. At most, I'll destroy your cultivation. At that time, let Ying Xuanzi take you back. Ren Yuenzi said with a smile. Sect Master Ren Yuenzi, isn't this too much? Chen Zhen finally could not hold back the fury in his heart, and opened his mouth to shout. Ha ha? Too much? Ren Yuenzi declined to comment and laughed. He ignored Chen Zhen and reached out with his hand, causing the space surrounding Lindong to gradually warp and distort. You? Seeing this, the faces of Chen Zhen and the other three rapidly changed. Soon after, they ferociously gritted their teeth, and the four of them simultaneously launched their attacks, as boundless Yuan power blasted towards Ren Yuenzi. However, Ren Yuenzi did not take any notice of their combined attacks. With a casual flick of his finger, a crack was torn open in the air before him, and directly swallowed their attacks. With a wave of his sleeve, an indescribable gale swept out, and landed on their bodies. Ugh! Under the gale, the defenses of Chen Zhen and the other three instantly shattered. They spurted out a mouthful of blood, as they shot back miserably. For advanced profound life stage experts. Before Ren Yuenzi, they were as frail as babies. Roar? Beside Lindong, Little Flame faced the heavens and roared. Black light erupted, and he transformed into a giant black tiger that was several hundreds of feet large. Exceptionally brutal black light energy shot out from its mouth, and blasted towards Ren Yuenzi. Oh! Devil Tiger Tribe. Ren Yuenzi was slightly surprised as he looked towards Little Flame that had transformed into a giant black tiger. Quickly after, he flicked his finger as a beam of light shot out from his fingertip. Little Flame instantly suffered a heavy blow as a mournful tiger's roar resounded. No one can save you today. Ren Yuenzi grinned as he looked at Lindong, who was trapped in the distorted space. His hand once again clenched and waved downwards, as the distorted space swiftly started to collapse. The boundless energy seemed to be intent on crushing Lindong into pulp. You bastard! Lindong stared at Chen Zhen, Little Flame and the rest who were vomiting blood as they flew backwards. Lines of blood started to climb up in his eyes, as his body violently trembled and his face contorted. Bang bang bang. Lindong waved his fist, Yuan power maniacally circulating, as punches ferociously landed on the distorted space, as if he was trying to blast it apart. The power of an ant. As he watched this scene, Ren Yuenzi could not help but shake his head in pity, while speaking with a faint smile. Bang bang. Lindong's fists crazily rumbled out. Under this pressure from the space, bloody lines started to surface on his originally extremely tyrannical body. However, it was as if Lindong did not feel this pain at all. His eyes were blood red, as he sent fist after fist rumbling out. Intense pain caused Lindong's ears to gradually ring, while fresh blood dripped from his forehead and onto his eyes, turning his entire world red. Hum hum. As Lindong's entire world gradually started to turn blood red, a faint and strange humming noise started ringing out from within his body. Within the depths of his body, a dull and ancient stone talisman started to faintly vibrate at this instant. Next, a sliver of strange energy quietly started to be released. Bang! Lindong sent another fist violently smashing against the space that had distorted till it became corporeal. A brilliant light suddenly flashed across his fist. Crack! A clear sound suddenly resounded across the sky. Everyone's pupils abruptly contracted at this moment. Their gazes were overwhelmed with shock as they looked at the distorted space. Currently, cracks were rapidly extending under the Lindong's fist. Ren Yuenzi's seal had actually been broken by Lindong. Shocked expressions appeared on the faces of Shamo and the other five, as if they had seen a ghost. As for Ren Yuenzi, who had worn a gentle smiling expression on his face ever since his appearance, his eyes slowly started to turn gloomy at this moment. This video will end here.